So in this kind of lesson, we're going to be taking a look at a multiple TVM solver type of a question. It's a pretty involved question where there's a lot of different parts involved in it. There's a lot of different things that we have to know about in order to kind of correctly enter things into the TVM solver, and it really requires you to really break things down. It's a difficult question. We're going to do it together. So let's take a read of the question first, and let's see what we can do just based upon reading it. The Warwick family purchased a cottage using money received from an inheritance as a down payment. Their mortgage broker was able to secure a 10-year mortgage with a 3-year term at prime plus 0.95%, compounded annually. Prime lending rate is 3%. The list price of the cottage is $197,500, and they will have to make some renovations to the cottage at a cost of $40,000. They're going to pay 8% of the list price. That's going to be the $197,000. They're going to pay 8% of that in closing costs, and they want this to be included in the mortgage. The Warwicks made a down payment of $25,000. Determine the monthly mortgage payment for the duration of the first term. Okay, so for this question here, we're going to have to use our TVM solver, which does mean that we're going to have to list out what we're using for N, I, PV, PMT, FV, P over Y, and C over Y. We're gonna have to list out all these things. Let's go ahead and let's list off some things that we already know. Let's talk about interest so far. So interest is 3%. That's going to be our prime rate, but it's going to be prime plus 0.95. So our interest for this question is 3.95%. We know a couple other things about this interest. It is also compounded annually, which means that we can put C over Y as 1. Let's keep on going for this. They want to pay a monthly mortgage rate. So if they're paying monthly, then that means that P over Y is going to be 12. And the duration of this mortgage is going to be 10 years. 10 years times 12. Now, I want to advise you to really be sure that this number is 10 here. Although that we only want to calculate the monthly mortgage payment for the duration of the first term, if you set the number of years to be 3 for their 3-year term, you're essentially saying that they're going to pay off their mortgage in 3 years, which is pretty excessive, and you're going to get a massive, massive monthly mortgage rate. This mortgage is calculated over 10 years, and at the end of the 3-year period, then it's reassessed. So 10 years is when all of these payments are going to be calculated, but then it's going to be reassessed at 3 years. Just a little bit of information for you. We already know what we're going to have to solve for. The question's pretty obvious when it says what is the monthly mortgage payment, so we're going to have to solve for that. And we want the future value of this thing to be 0. All right, PV. This is a really difficult situation here. We have a ton of information of trying to figure out what PV is. I'm going to assume something in the question that it's not inherent in the question, but I believe it does make sense to be in the question as well. I want to put this $40,000 inside their mortgage payment as well. They're going to put their 8% closing costs, but I'm also going to include this $40,000 as well. It's not explicit in the question, but I think it makes sense to add into the question. Let's break this down. We have the list price of the cottage is going to be $197,500. We know that they're going to do some renos, and that's going to be $40,000. And then we know that they're going to have some closing costs. And the closing costs are 8% of our list price. So this is going to, I kind of already have it equals, but this is going to equal $15,800. All of these costs, we have 3 of them. We have the list price, we have our renos, and we have our normal closing costs. All of these things are going to add up, and then they are going to constitute what they ask for a mortgage. So let's add them up. We got $40,000 here, and we have the base list price of our condo, or of our cottage, sorry. And they're going to ask for a mortgage of $253,000 and $300. This is their mortgage. Right there. So adding up all of those costs. Now, they do have a down payment, which is nice. And the down payment is going to come directly off the mortgage. They ask for this mortgage, and then they're going to pay off this down payment right away. So this PV value is going to be minus $25,000. So we can actually enter this into our TVM solver and get what their monthly mortgage is going to be. Let's go ahead and let's go to our apps, our finance, TVM solver, and let's start entering our stuff. 10 times 12, that's going to be 120. You could write in 10 times 12 though, and it would handle it for you. 3.95. Our PV, I'm going to type in this equation though, 253,300 minus 25,000. Our PMT, we're going to solve for that, but we have to come back up to that. FV, they want to pay it off in 10 years, so it's 0. And PV, our P over Y, is 12. We got to go back down to C over Y and rectify that to be 0. Let's go up to PMT and let's solve. So after we've entered this in, we're going to get that their monthly mortgage rate is going to be $2,298.45. This is going to be what they owe every month to their mortgage. Okay, now this is assuming that they are going to pay this for 10 years. That's what this mortgage is based on. But as we've kind of talked a little bit about, and how the notes have kind of been saying that, you know, when we look at these, after the first X amount of years, this interest that the bank is going to get from you is slowly going to fade away. They're slowly going to make less and less money off of you when you've paid off the first chunk of your mortgage. So they're going to have to reassess your mortgage after whatever the designation is, and in this case, it's going to be 3 years. So let's figure out now B. Let's figure out how much money you actually have remaining on your mortgage at 3 years. There's a couple ways that we can do this, but I think the easiest way that we can do this is to use a function in our TVM solver called BAL. And then all we would do inside would be our 12 monthly mortgage payments multiplied by 3. So it would be 36. And this is a function in your TVM solver that quite literally means what is the balance at this number of months. I will show you a different way to do this one as well. However, this is going to be a pretty easy way for us to do it that's going to get us the amount immediately. The issue with this is that you need to have the TVM solver already solved for in your calculator. So there is a little caveat to this. TVM must be solved already. So your calculator kind of recalls back to over here to do it. So I'm going to show you how to do this one the quick way, and then if you wanted to, you can do it a different way by using just some multiplication and some subtraction. So I'm going to show you how to use this balance method. So I would go back to your home screen, whatever it is. I just clear this out, or you could leave it from this as long as the blinky cursor dot is over here. But we're going to go back to apps. We're going to go finance, but instead of go to TVM solver, we're going to go all the way down here. You're going to see BAL. Now, I'm actually a little bit unfamiliar if we can enter an equation into BAL or not. I'm tempted to say we can't. So what I would rather do, rather than saying 12 months times 3 years, I would just put this as 36. So what we are going to put in our calculator is BAL 36. And this is going to show us the balance that we owe on our mortgage after 36 months, aka 3 years, when the term is up. So with that, and this calculates your monthly payments, right? Because that's already programmed into the calculator. You'll still owe on your mortgage $168,833 and some change. This is what our balance is at the end of our first term. I'm going to stop the video here. I'm going to make another one, It's going to be a couple parts to this question, but I'm going to show you another way how to do this that won't rely on this easy calculator function.